साक्षात् भगवन् भवस्य प्रियस्य सख्युः क्षणसङ्गमेन सुदुश्चिकित्स्यस्य भवस्य मृत्योः भिषक्तमं त्वाद्यगतिं गताः स्म। Vayam, we, tu, then, sakshat, directly, Bhagavan, O Lord, Bhavasya, of Lord Shiva, Priyasya, very dear, Sakyuho, your friend, Kshana, for a moment, Sangamena, by association, Sudushchikitsyasya, very difficult to cure, Bhavasya, of material existence, Mrityo, of death, Bhishaktamam, the most expert physician, Tva, you, Adya, today, Gatim, destination, Gataha, have achieved, Sma, certainly. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Dear Lord, by virtue of a moment's association with Lord Shiva, who is very dear to you and who is your most intimate friend, we were fortunate to attain you. You are the most expert physician capable of treating the incurable disease of material existence. On account of our great fortune, we have been able to take shelter at your lotus feet. Purport. Please repeat. Dear Lord, by virtue of a moment's association with Lord Shiva, who is very dear to you and who is your most intimate friend, we were fortunate to attain you. You are the most expert physician capable of treating the incurable disease of material existence. On account of our great fortune, we have been able to take shelter at your lotus feet. Purport. It has been said, Harim vinana mritim taranti. Without taking shelter of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, one cannot attain relief from the clutches of Maya, the repetition of birth, old age, disease and death. The Prachetas received the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the grace of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is the supreme devotee of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vaishnavanam yatha shambhu. The most exalted Vaishnava is Lord Shiva, and those who are actually devotees of Lord Shiva follow Lord Shiva's advice and take shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. The so-called devotees of Lord Shiva who are simply after material prosperity are in a way deceived by Lord Shiva. He does not actually deceive them because Lord Shiva has no business deceiving people, but because the so-called devotees of Lord Shiva want to be deceived, Lord Shiva, who is very easily pleased, allows them all kinds of material benedictions. These benedictions might ironically result in the destruction of the so-called devotees. For instance, Ravana took all material benediction from Lord Shiva, but the result was that he was ultimately destroyed with his family, kingdom and everything else because he misused Lord Shiva's benediction. Because of his material power, he became very proud and puffed up so that he dared kidnap the wife of Lord Ramachandra. In this way, he was ruined. To get material benedictions from Lord Shiva is not difficult, but actually these are not benedictions. The Prachetas received benediction from Lord Shiva, and as a result they attained the shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. This is real benediction. The gopis also worship Lord Shiva in Vrindavan, and the Lord is still staying there as Gopishwara. The gopis, however, prayed that Lord Shiva bless them by giving them Lord Krishna as their husband. There is no harm in worshipping the demigods, provided that one's aim is to return home back to Godhead. Generally, people go to the demigods for material benefit, as indicated in Bhagavad Gita 7.20. Kamaistaistairhritagnyānaः prapadyanteņa devataः tam tam niyamamāsthāya prakritya niyataः svaya. Those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. One enamored with material benefits is called hritagnyana, one who has lost his intelligence. In this connection, it is to be noted that sometimes in revealed scriptures, Lord Shiva is described as being non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The point is that Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu are so intimately connected that there is no difference in opinion. The actual fact is, Ekale Ishwar Krishna are Sabhritya. The only Supreme Master is Krishna, and all others are his devotees or servants. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila 5.142. This is the real fact, and there is no difference of opinion between Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu in this connection. Nowhere in revealed scripture does Lord Shiva claim to be equal to Lord Vishnu. This is simply the creation of the so-called devotees of Lord Shiva who claim that Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu are one. This is strictly forbidden in the Vaishnava Tantra, Yastu Narayanam Devam. Actually, the full verse is Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudradi Daivatai Samatvenaiva Viksheta Sa Pashandi Bhavedhruvam. If you go to that actual verse there. A person who considers demigods like Brahma and Shiva to be on an equal level with Narayana is to be considered an offender or Pashandi. Another meaning of Pashandi is atheist. Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are intimately connected as master and servants. Shiva Virinchinutam 11.5.33. Vishnu is honored and offered obeisances by Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Dhyeyam sada paribhavagnamabhishtadoham tirthaspadam shiva virinchinutam sharanyam bhrityartiham pranatapala bhavabdhipotam vande mahapurushate charanarvindam. So this is 11.5.33. My dear Lord, you are the Mahapurusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I worship your lotus feet, which are the only eternal object of meditation. Those feet destroy the embarrassing conditions of material life and freely award the greatest desire of the soul, the attainment of pure love of Godhead. My dear Lord, your lotus feet are the shelter of all holy places and of all saintly authorities in the line of devotional service, and are honored by powerful demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. But my Lord, you are so kind that you willingly protect all those who simply bow down to you with respect, and thus you mercifully relieve all the distress of your servants. In conclusion, my Lord, your lotus feet are actually the suitable boat for crossing over the ocean of birth and death, and therefore even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva seek shelter at your lotus feet. So this is the beautiful verse. Vishnu is honored and offered obeisances by Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. To consider that they are all equal is a great offense. They are all equal in the sense that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and all others are his eternal servants. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmelitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today's verse is 4:30-38 Srimad Bhagavatam. Vayam tu sakshat bhagavan bhavasya priyasya sakhyuh ksanasangamena sudushchikitsyasya bhavasya mrityor bhishattamam tvadhyagatim gatasma. So the Prachetas are praying to the Lord Vishnu and they are saying that by the mercy of Lord Shiva, by his moment's association, by a short association just for a short time, we were fortunate to attain you. You are the most expert physician capable of treating the incurable disease of material existence. So it is great fortune, it is actually the greatest fortune that one get the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. There is no greater fortune than receiving the benediction of Lord Vishnu's lotus feet. But it is only available to a person who has achieved the mercy of a pure devotee. Chhadiya Vaishnav Sevan Nistar Peche Keba. So, Narottam Das Thakur says that nobody has ever reached the spiritual world without receiving the mercy of a Vaishnava. It is not possible. So here, Lord Shiva himself is the Vaishnava who actually delivered the Prachetas. And this is very different, as you can see in the purport, it's very different from the so-called devotees of Lord Shiva who try to get material benedictions from him. See, Bhagavad Gita states, Antavattu phalam tesham tad bhavati alpamedhasam. Antavat. (723). Antavat means, Anta means end. Antavattu phalam tesham. Whatever phala, whatever fruit we get from, or benedictions we get from the demigods, they are all temporary, subject to destruction. Men of small intelligence, alpamedhasam. Sumedhasa means very intelligent, alpamedhasa means very less intelligent, very meager intelligence. So men of such small intelligence worship the demigods and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. So there is a difference between worshipping the demigods and worshipping the Supreme Lord. But that is on the basis of, especially if we worship the demigods for material benefits. But if we worship them for spiritual benefit, then they will be more than glad to give that benediction. Lord Shiva here is a perfect example. What is written there? Whose phone? Huh? You manage this one because I can't see anything anymore. So those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods. And there is a difference between the planets of demigods and Krishna's planet. Golokanamni nijadhamni tale chatasya devi hari mahesha haridhama suteshu teshu tete prabhava nichaya vihitaschayena govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. See, there is Golokadham is Nijadham, the abode of the Lord Himself. And below that there are Devi, Mahesha and Haridham. And this Devi Dham is this material world. And the demigods' planets are all within this Devi Dham. Above that is Mahesh Dham, the Lord Shiva's abode, Kailash Dham, which is beyond the material world, but not in the Vaikuntha, at the border. So of course there is a representation of that Kailash in the material world also. That's another thing. But his real Dham, Sadashiva, is beyond this material world. And then Haridham is Vaikuntha. And above even Vaikuntha is the Golokadham. This is the positioning of these planetary systems, different planets and different abodes. Lowest of all is located Devi Dham, mundane world, this material world. Daivi Hyesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratya, this Maya. This. Next above it is Mahesh Dham, abode of Mahesh. Above Mahesh Dham is placed Haridham, abode of Hari. And above them all is located Krishna's own realm named Goloka. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda who has allotted the respective authorities to the rulers of these graded realms. So there are gradations of realms or abodes. So when it is said that the worshippers of the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, the planets are only in the Devi Dham, far away from Haridham, Vaikuntha Dham. And here there is repeated birth and death. Antavattu phalam tesham. But the devotees, they go to, they may even, when they meet the demigods, or sometimes they even pray to the demigods, to achieve the favor of Krishna, asking their favor to achieve the favor of Krishna. So that is the Vaishnava way of praying to the demigods. Of course, we don't especially worship the demigods. It's forbidden for a Vaishnava. But whenever there is opportunity, whenever there is some, like there are many temples of the demigods, so one can always remember the mercy of the demigods, the position of the demigods as servants of Vishnu, Vaishnavas. And we can request their favor so that we can also become devotees. And among them all is Lord Shiva. Now every other demigod usually is not a pure devotee. There are exceptions. Like Surya. Surya is the sun god. It's considered demigod. But actually he is a pure devotee. Because Krishna himself spoke to the sun god. And he started the parampara with him. And Brahma also, in this case, in this universe, he is a pure devotee. Sometimes he is not. Sometimes he is a demon. In the sense that here he is pure devotee. But it is said that when we first come to this material world, we come as Brahma. So when we came like that, we were not very cooperative. So then we went down all the way to even the worm in the stool. So he is with material desires basically. That's what I'm saying. Not exactly a demon, but a person with material desires. Like Indra, you see, he has a lot of material desires. Like that. Ganesh, it is said that he is always holding the tumuli. I mean, with his tumuli, he is holding the lotus feet of Lord Narasimhadev. So he is a great devotee. So like that, and of course Devi herself, Durga Devi, she herself is a devotee, Vaishnavi Devi. So they are all devotees of Vishnu. But people don't think, why is her name Vaishnavi Devi? They do Durga Puja, they say, oh, she's same as Krishna and everything same. So Shiva is a Vaishnavanam yatha Shambhu. You know, where is this verse? 12th canto, 13th chapter, 16th verse. Nimna ganam yatha ganga devanam achyuto yatha vaishnavanam yatha shambhu purananam idam tatha. The superlative, the best of all in each category is stated here. Just as the Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, Lord Achyuta, the supreme among deities, and Lord Shambhu or Shiva, the greatest of Vaishnavas, so Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest of all Puranas. So, Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava. So his wife is also a great Vaishnavi. So we can always seek their favor whenever there is some opportunity. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he did that. See, this is Srimad Bhagavatam 10:22-4. Gopis were praying to Durga Devi like this. Katyayani Mahamaye Mahayoginyadhishwari Nanda Gopasutam Devi Patim Me Kurute Namaha Iti Mantram Japantyastaha Pujam Chakruh Kumarikaha. Each of the young unmarried girls performed her worship while chanting the following mantra. O Goddess Katyayani, O great potency of the Lord, O possessor of great mystic power and mighty controller of all, please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. I offer my obeisances unto you. This is their prayer to Durga Devi. Please make Krishna as our husband. Usually they go for praying for a husband, but this is not ordinary husband, Krishna. So this is different. So you can see from the episode of the Prachetas how Lord Shiva was so merciful and clearly explained that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and urged them to take shelter of Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu. many places it is said that the devotees of Lord Vishnu are very, very dear to him, to Lord Shiva. But those who worship Lord Shiva for material benedictions, they are not very dear to Lord Shiva actually. You know, sometimes people say, oh, Vishnu and Shiva are same. Sometimes Shiva prays to Vishnu, sometimes Vishnu prays to Shiva. They say Rameshwaram, Lord Vishnu, Lord Ramachandra prayed to Lord Shiva. Lord Ramachandra need not pray to Lord Shiva. There is no mention in Valmiki Ramayana that he actually prayed to Lord Shiva. But even if he did pray, even if he did offer respect to Lord Shiva, that is just like Krishna here. He became a driver for Arjuna. So Arjuna is greater than Krishna, is it? Because Yashoda Maya, she tied him up, so Yashoda is greater than Krishna. Or Nanda Maharaj's shoes he carried on his head, so Nanda Maharaj is greater than Krishna. Yes, greater than Krishna in the sense of rasa, not according to tattva. According to philosophy, they are not greater. According to rasa, according to their loving mellows, yes, that is a different thing, a relationship. So, Madbhakta Puja Bhyadika. Krishna says that worshipping my devotee is more greater than worshipping me. And in fact, Nagopal Prabhu was showing this verse the other day. 7:14-42 Srimad Bhagavatam. Nanvasya brahmana rajan krishnasya jagadatmanah punantah pada rajasa trilokim daivatam mahat. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Jai. You see, very important verse. My dear King Yudhishthira, the Brahmanas, especially those engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord throughout the entire world, are recognized and worshipped by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You see, the preachers, Vaishnavas, they are worshipped by Krishna, who is the heart and soul of all creation. The Brahmanas, by their preaching, sanctify the three worlds with the dust of their lotus feet, and thus they are worshipable even for Krishna. So Krishna worships Vaishnavas, and he also says, I am not at all independent, only Vaishnavas. You see, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Aham Bhakta Paradhino hi Asvatantra Ivadvija Sadhubhir Grasta Hridayo Bhaktair Bhakta Janapriya. Sadhubhir Grasta Hridayo. He is a prisoner. Krishna is a prisoner in the heart of a devotee. Grasta Hridayo means my heart is controlled. In fact, there is a song by Bilavangal Thakur. Bilavangal Thakur, right? Chorashtakam. And there Krishna, he prays to Krishna. Nice song. He calls Krishna a great thief. That you have stolen butter, you have stolen the gopis' clothes, you have stolen the miseries of all the devotees, you have stolen their wealth, and they are now moving around like beggars. So many, so much stealing you have done. For all your criminals, I will imprison you within my heart. And you are not going to be released, for many, many millions of years. So like that, Bilavangal Thakur very nicely writes Chorashtakam song. So, the devotees have that power. Tumar Hridaya Sada Govinda Vishram. Narottam Das Thakur has sung. Govinda is always in the heart of the devotee. Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says. Let's read this translation. I am completely under the control of my devotees, Lord Vishnu is saying. Indeed, I am not at all independent. Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires, I sit only within the course of their hearts. What to speak of my devotee? Even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me. And 9:4:68. See this one also. Sadhavo hridayam mahyam sadhunam hridayam tvaham madanyattena jananti naham debhyo managapi. The pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I am always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anyone else but them. And here also, Sarvabhutastham Atmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshanaha. Bhagavad Gita 6:29. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. And then Krishna reciprocates that. 6:30. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. You see? So Krishna is always very close to his devotee. I think this verse also says, right? Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshyosti na priyah ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya mahi te teshu chapyaham. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me is in devotion, is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So, in this way, so when people sometimes say there is no difference between Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, as Srila Prabhupada states in the purport, there is no difference of opinion. There is no disagreement between Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. And the second offense against the holy name, Shivasya Shri Vishnu, let me forget the Sanskrit. It's here. Shivasya Shri Vishnu Yaiha Gunanamadi Sakalam Dhiya Bhinnam Pashyet Sakhalu Harinama Hitakaraha. So Shivasya Shri Vishnu Yaiha Gunanamadi Sakalam. So recently we have done explanation on this offense from Harinam Chintamani and also in this particular verse. So two meanings are there to this. Shivasya Shri Vishnu Yaiha Guna Namadi Sakalam. So one is that Shivasya, Shiva means auspicious. So the auspicious guna and nama adi of Shri Vishnu. The auspicious name and qualities of Vishnu, if we think of them as separate from Vishnu, they are actually non-different from Vishnu. But if we think they are separate from Vishnu, that is an offense. In our case, our name and ourself, we are separate. Because the name is only to this body. We are soul. So we and our name are different. We are not non-different. But in Krishna's case, Krishna and his name are non-different. There is no difference between Krishna's body and soul. He is all soul. No material body. Yeah. So therefore, to consider that Krishna's or Vishnu's name separate from him and his qualities is to consider him as a material person, as if he is under the control of Maya, like we are. Now, that is an offense. That is Mayavad's philosophy. That is one meaning. Just like the demigods are. The demigods, they are like that. The soul and their name and form, qualities, all different. Like you see, when a soul is having dog's body, he is having the quality of dog. But the soul actually doesn't have that quality. So he is actually a pure servant of Krishna, but he is barking like a dog now. So these are two different things based on the body. But Vishnu is not like that, Krishna is not like that. And therefore we are chanting Hare Krishna. We are actually associating with Krishna. So that is one. And the next is Shivasya Shri Vishnu. That means Shiva and Vishnu. This is more tricky to understand. So Shiva's and Vishnu's qualities and name, etc., if we think of them as separate, that is offense. So this seems to say that okay, they are all both same then. Their name, their qualities, everything same. So Dhiya Bhinnam means to think that Shiva and Vishnu are independent. Shiva's name, qualities and etc. and Vishnu's name, quality and etc. are all independent. They have no connection with each other. That is Bhinnam. So if we consider Shiva to be independent of Krishna, that is an offense. Actually Shiva, his name, his qualities, everything are coming from Krishna. So they are not separate, like Prithak Bhava. As a devotee, in the mode of ignorance or goodness or passion, we are actually a separatist. We are defined as a separatist. We are not considered a pure devotee. Because we have separate interests than the Lord's interest. Whereas a pure devotee has no separate interest from the Lord. Therefore he is called unalloyed devotee. The mode of ignorance person, he, although performs devotional service, he is full of envy, anger and all these things. See, 329.8 Abhisandhaya yohimsam dambham matsaryameva va samrambhi bhinna drigbhavam mayi kuryat satamasa. See, this is bhinna drig. Why I am telling you all this? Because bhinna, dhiya bhinnam, to consider that Shiva is separate. something else than Krishna, not derived from Krishna, a separate reality, parallel reality, that is an offense. He has no parallel existence. He is dependent on Krishna. Whereas a devotee, he has his separate interest, and Shiva also does not have any separate interests from Vishnu. That's why he is a pure devotee. Whereas a person who is not a pure devotee has separate interests, bhinna drik. He cannot be separate from Krishna. Even a non-devotee, his existence is dependent only on Krishna. But bhinna drik means he sees it like that. Drishti. His drik is like that. Bhinna drik bhavam. His interests are separate from the Lord. See, so this is in the mode of ignorance. Let's see. Devotional service executed by a person who is envious, proud, violent and angry, and who is a separatist, he is considered to be in the mode of darkness. Tamasic bhakti. Then there is Rajasic bhakti, Sattvic bhakti, and then there is Shuddha bhakti. 329.9 Vishayanabhisandhaya yasha aishwaryameva va archadavarcha yedyomam prithak bhavaha sarajasaha. The worship of deities in the temple by a separatist with a motive for material enjoyment, fame and opulence is devotion in the mode of passion. So people who come to devotional service, they are not purified immediately. They are on the path of purification, but they still have a lot of baggage of these material modes. So one who is predominantly in the mode of passion, he wants material enjoyment, fame and opulence. He performs deity worship, but he still is having all these desires. He wants to be known as a great devotee, for example. He wants to be known as better than other devotees. So these kind of, or in the material world he wants to have prestige. He will put, nowadays I am seeing, many devotees, both in Ritvik and also Guru camp. The name will be there, and then the material qualification will be PhD, IIT, Kharagpur, whatever, they will have this. Why? Of course, they will say, oh, this is using in Krishna's service, so that if I say IIT Kharagpur, he will listen to me. If you are from IIT Kharagpur, you talk nonsense, nobody will want to listen to you. But if you talk sense, people don't care where you are from. Actually, nobody cares. Recently, there was this Elon Musk. He was saying, I never studied aeronautical engineering in my life. And he managed to construct a spacecraft that can go and land back on Earth. Never done before. And he said, I never studied. He said, he also does not believe in these so-called credentials. He said, I was around people who were aeronautical engineers, and I learned, and okay, we had a plan, and then we sat together and we made it. Even materially speaking. He is not known as aeronautical PhD something, no. He is known as a SpaceX, founder, and he constructs these spacecrafts. So, especially in devotional service. So, if it all depends on what is the qualification, how devotionally qualified a person is. It doesn't really matter. If he has incidentally, out of good fortune, some material position or some prestigious position, he can use that to his advantage to preach. That is another thing. Like Arjuna, he was a great yadyad acharati shreshthas tattadevetaro janah sayat pramanam kurte lokastad anuvartate. So that is there. But we don't have to chase material position just to become famous so that we can preach. Prabhupada did not go to America to become American president. He did not stand for presidential elections in America. He went and preached to hippies in one of the worst places in America. He went. And then eventually by his own spiritual quality, this is called self-effulgent. What does self-effulgent means? It means he does not need another qualification to qualify him. His qualification in devotional service is the qualification which will itself manifest. There is no other need. Even if a person is a great person, that is not the reason for being able to preach. No. It is the devotion that is the reason. that he preaches. Like George Harrison. Oh, people say, oh, see, he's a great musician and he could preach, But how he could preach without coming in touch with Prabhupada? So somebody had to dedicate life, not that Prabhupada stand for elections and then he became like a Gandhi, like political figure, and then started to preach Bhagavad Gita. On the other hand, Gandhi was there, a political figure, not only in India, whole world famous. He never preached the message of Bhagavad Gita. Just did political propaganda. Prabhupada even chastised him mildly, of course. He said, in fact, he gave a strong warning to him. If you continue, now independence is achieved, you have fought for it, you got it, leave it. Why are you still hanging on to it? Come and preach Bhagavad Gita, let's do it. Otherwise, your own countryman will kill you. He said even that one in the letter. And then sure enough, his own countryman killed him. So just that position does not matter. It is useless. Only the devotion matters. One who is actually connected to a proper guru and gets the knowledge of Krishna, he can preach. So because this George Harrison contacted Prabhupada, and there he sang these songs, and then it became. But it is actually because of Prabhupada's mercy that it went. We fail to recognize that sometimes and give more importance to this material identification. Ours is what is that called? Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesa sevanam bhakti ruchite sarva upadhi vinirmuktam. We have to get out of this upadhi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying naham varni, naham vipro nachanara patir. He is saying I am none of these what is that? I have no position, all these upadhi I relinquish. Naham vipro nachanara patir napi vaishyo na shudro naham varni nacha griha patir no vanastho yatirva kintu prodyan nikhila paramananda purnamritabdher gopi bharto padakamalayor dāsa dāsanudāsa. I am not Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi. I identify myself only as a servant of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. He is like an ocean of nectar and he is the cause of universal transcendental bliss. He is always existing with brilliance. So this is our upadhi. This is real upadhi. This is true ego. Everything else is false ego. Of course, as a matter of status, one may be known as a brahmachari or grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi. That is varna. And that is all related to Krishna. And nowadays they are having new upadhis, some devotees, so-called devotees. Life coach. You are not a coach, you are poaching. You are not coaching. Poaching. You see, poaching means they will unnecessarily kill that animal and take away something from them. Some ivory, some tusk, something. And these people, so-called coaches, they are poaching. They are killing those people. Their spiritual lives. Whoever doesn't take advantage of this human life and make it perfect, he is committing suicide. And if somebody does that to another person, he is killing him spiritually. Now this is poaching, this is not coaching. So that is, you see, I am saying, this is stated in the Nirdehamadyam sulabham sudurlabham plavam sukalpam guru karnatharam mayanukulena nabhasvateritam puman bhavabdhim nataretsa atmaha. This atmaha means suicide, the one who commits suicide. The human body, which can award all benefit in life, is automatically obtained by the laws of nature, although it is very rare achievement. This human body can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat having the spiritual master as the captain and the instructions of the personality of Godhead as favorable winds impelling it on its course. Considering all these advantages, a human being who does not utilize his human life to cross the ocean of material existence must be considered the killer of his own soul. This is Srimad Bhagavatam 11:20-17. Now, if we see this Ishopanishad mantra 3, Asuryanam te loka andhena tamasavritah tamste pretyabhigachanti yeke chatmahano janah. The killers of the soul. These are the killers of the soul. How can you kill the soul? Soul cannot be killed. What is the meaning of killer of a soul? That means to work for the detriment of the soul's actual self-interest, actual interest. That is killer of the soul. And keep the soul in this material world in the cycle of birth and death, not giving the soul eternal immortal life, which actually belongs to the soul. So that is Atmahana, and that is all actually the real meaning of violence. You will go there. You see, the killers of the soul. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. Now there are of course two meanings to this. One who kills animals and kills human beings, the body of the thing. Because Atma can also mean body. Atma has different meanings according to the context. Atma can mean body, mind, intelligence and soul also. So, those who killers of the body, yes, they also go to hell. But the most, the worst violence is to misdirect. Of all violences, the most violent is the misdirection. Misdirecting the souls to painful path, not allowing them to go back to Godhead. So regarding this, there is this explanation by Srila Prabhupada here. Jiva himsa. Ahimsa means non-violence, himsa means violence. So what is violence? To do harm to others. Sometimes people say, no, I don't want to be too religious. As long as we do good, it's okay, no? No, it's not okay, because you are not doing good. Let's see what is good and what is bad first of all. Without knowing good, what can you do good? All this is simply some useless talk. Okay, here in the purport, there is very nicely mentioned. It's a long purport, very, very, very important purport in fact. But we will. Oh, it's already finished. Okay, wait. This is the. Yeah. The word Jiva Himsa, envy of other living entities, actually means stopping the preaching of Krishna consciousness. This is the actual meaning of Jiva Himsa. Preaching work is described as paropakar, welfare activity for others. Those who are ignorant of the benefits of devotional service must be educated by preaching. If one stops preaching and simply sits down in a solitary place, he is engaging in material activity. See, if we, in government law, if you don't, especially here, some countries I don't know, but in many countries, if you don't send the child to school, you will be punished by law, because you are doing a disservice to your child. They are materially calculating. What about spiritual? It is actually a crime not to educate the child in Krishna consciousness. So preaching, not only children, for Praja, for a king, he is like the father of the entire kingdom. He has to take care of everybody. Prajabhirakshana. This is the, duty of a king. Just like if a parent protects a child, the king must protect his citizens. That is one of the duties of Kshatriya. And that protection means to engage them in Krishna conscious activities. This is explained by Veera Raghava Acharya. show you this verse. So, but if we don't do this, this is Jiva Himsa. So, let's show. See, this is in Parashar Smriti, actually 1.61, if I am not wrong. Kshatriyo hi prajarakshan shastrapani pradandayan nirjitya parasainyadi kshitim dharmena palayet. Prajarakshan. Okay, remember these two words. Prajarakshan. Now, the Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties, material and spiritual, both. And for that reason, he has to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. Therefore, he has to conquer the soldiers of inimical kings, and thus, with religious principles, he should rule over the world. So, usually, they used to have defense. They used to also have Sainya, Sena, army. And they used to defend themselves against other kings, unscrupulous kings. But sometimes they also occupy other kingdoms. But not just for increasing my kingdom size. No. They used to have spies in other countries. That is normal for even now. They will have spies in other countries. So they will, sometimes no need to have any spy, because trade will happen and people will be going here and there. And if this religious king, if he finds out that in another kingdom there is irreligion going on, so first of all there will be talks, diplomatic talks. Okay, why this is not being done or something like this. So there will be discussions, and sadhus will be there to advise, yes, it should be done like this, why you are not doing, these yajnas should be done, or temples must be constructed. You see some people are just committing crimes, you are not engaging them. So the whole focus is not economic growth. Oh, our economy is falling, graph is going down, so let us do something to increase economy. Economy will automatically happen. Economy is that the Vaishyas will Krishi Goraksha, and then those products and other products, Vanijam, trade will happen, and that is enough, sustenance. But the most important activity of the government was to see that everybody is religiously inclined, and not just inclined, they are actually practicing according to their Varna and Ashram. That was the real concern of governments and discussions and all these board meetings. Not like nowadays, just like, what nonsense is. So, when all talks fail, everything fails, like, even Pandavas and Kauravas, they made so many diplomatic talks. They tried to, make the Kauravas relent, but no, they were unrelenting. Okay, war. Final was war. So, a king would actually attack the other kingdom, but not like killing the civilians, no. He will challenge the Kshatriya, okay, war. Then they will have it that designated place for war outside the city, and they will fight. And whoever wins, he will. So attack used to happen for that reason. And then this king will take over that kingdom and rule that according to religious principles. Now, in this verse, this Prajarakshan is mentioned. You see here, Prachina Barhi Rajarshi Praja Sargabhirakshane. You see this word again, Praja Sargabhirakshane. Abhirakshana, Praja. Adishyaputran Agamat Tapase Kapilashramam. Okay, this. In the presence of his ministers, the saintly king Prachina Barhi left orders for his sons to protect the citizens. He then left home and went off to undergo austerities in a holy place known as Kapilashram. And the purport, the word Praja Sarga is very important in this verse. This is according to Veeraraghava Acharya, such protection means organizing the citizens into the specific divisions of the 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas. It was the responsibility of the royal order to see that the citizens were following the regulative principles of the 4 Varnas, namely Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, and the Ashramas, namely Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. It is very difficult to rule citizens in a kingdom without organizing this Varnashram Dharma. To rule the mass of citizens in a state and keep them in a complete progressive order is not possible simply by passing laws every year in a legislative assembly. The Varnashram Dharma is essential in a good government. One class of men, the Brahmanas, must be intelligent and Brahmanically qualified, others Kshatriyas, administrative work, and then Vaishyas in mercantile business, and Shudras for labor. These 4 classes of men are already there according to nature, but it is the government's duty to see that all 4 of these classes follow the principles of their varnas methodically. This is called abhirakshana or protection. Nowadays the education is only producing Shudras, how to get employed and work. Too much supply of Shudras, and then the jobs for Shudras are reducing because machines are coming. They say, oh, now unemployment, big problem. But this unemployment problem will not be there because there is too much vacancy for the other 3, especially the Brahmanas and proper Kshatriyas. There is too much vacancy. And people who are otherwise supposed to have been Brahmanas, they are working as Shudras now and competing with Shudras. And of course, because they will have some intelligence, so the poor Shudras who are others, they actually are supposed to be Shudras, they will be out of job. And the so-called Brahmanas who are supposed to be using the intelligence to study Vedas and preach, they are using all their intelligence in doing technology and all these things. Many Indians are now CEOs of big tech companies. And not only CEOs, the entire workforce almost is Indian. And they are creating robots so that they can displace some more Shudras. They are creating AI, artificial intelligence, so that there will be more Shudras. The Shudras will be even more unemployed. So it's a very imbalanced way of doing it. So the whole purpose is lost. They don't know what to do actually. They want to advance the technology, but they see that technology is causing this problem. Let's see what to do. They are coming up with other. The whole point is economic. They are now coming up with another scheme, which we will see in another 10 years. In the next decade, until 2030, it will be a common word in everybody's life. UBI. I think nobody has even heard of it. UBI. Universal Basic Income. This is, nobody has heard even now, but it is already in there. It is coming out. And it will be a common word by 2030. What is that? Because they are saying that there will be driverless cars. So all the truck drivers and car driver, taxi driver all gone. So many jobs will be displaced by machines, even in manufacturing and process industries. So all these people will be unemployed. So how will they survive? So they are coming up with this concept of universal basic income. Every person in the world will get this universal basic income from the government. Sounds nice, right? Wow. Without working you will get. That is a point. But if you want to work another job, you can work. So apart from UBI, you will also get, that income. So, but UBI for basic necessities, not like too much. Basic necessities will be covered. That kind of thing. Now the problem with this is that they will control, and it will be done through digital currency, cryptocurrency, so that it is programmable. There is social scoring. That means, you can write the smart contracts. I don't know if you know cryptocurrency, but in Ethereum you can write smart contracts. That means if this happens, this is like programming. If this happens, this person will get this much money. If he does this wrong thing, he will get demerit points. So the UBI will be there, some penalty. So depending on what you will say, if it is against government or something, there will be penalty. And they will track you with your phone, with your wearables and all these things. So you will be complete control. They will be holding you like a dog and give you whatever food, dog biscuit, if you are a little bit, it's going to come. Now digital currency is, decentralized. When it becomes centralized, they call it CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency. Every government will have. And then they will impose all these things. So this is how they are trying to solve the problem of the so-called mechanization of civilization. By keeping them, they cannot talk, they cannot think. Everything we will do for you. You just follow. Even if you don't agree, you don't go against. And people, you see, Prabhupada already told this in 1960s, 70s, right? That we have to have self-sustaining farm communities, not dependent on this this urban kind of civilization, Maya civilization. And now even people are saying, those who are against this system that is going to come, they are saying we should have self-sustaining farms. Prabhupada is such a visionary. 50, 60 years back he already told this. And it's going to become worse. Bhagavatam says, right? Dasyu. What is that? Rajarshi. What is that? 12:4:40, is it? 12:2:40. Is this one? Twelve 140. 12:140. Let's see. Stri balago dvijaghnascha paradarad uditasta praya alpa sattvalpakayushah asamskritaah kriyahina rajasa tamasa vritaah prajaste bhakshayishyanti mlecha rajanyarupinah. You see here, these barbarians in the guise of kings, see, this is the Kali Yuga. These barbarians in the guise of kings will devour the citizenry, murdering innocent women, children, cows and brahmanas, and coveting the wives and property of other men. They will be erratic in their moods, have very little strength of character, and be very short-lived. Indeed, not purified by any Vedic rituals and lacking in the practice of regulative principles, they will be completely covered by the modes of passion and ignorance. And I think there is the citizens governed by these low-class kings will imitate the character, behavior and speech of their rulers. Harassed by their leaders and by each other, they will all suffer ruination. Kali Yuga. There is this, what is that? They run to the forest, flee to the forest. This is 12:8. Prajahi lubdhai rajanyair nirgrahanair dasyu dharmabhihi achinna dara dravina yasyanti girikananam. Yasyanti girikananam. Giri means mountain, kananam means forest. Losing their wives and properties to such avaricious and merciless rulers who will behave no better than ordinary thieves, the citizens will flee to the mountains and forests. And people are talking about going and, running away from cities now for what is to come. They're saying we have to run away from cities and have self-sustaining communities, growing our own food and, living on our own, not dependent on this system. But it's going to come, and the majority, 95% of people will follow it. They will say, okay, never mind, let me get some money, and then their life will be controlled. And they cannot even say that Krishna is Supreme Personality of God. Why would I get paid for not talking about Krishna? It's going to become more and more difficult, as Kali Yuga progresses. So, anyway, it's a bit of a tangent to the topic, but you see, we have to have full faith in what Srila Prabhupada has given us. Just like Prachetas had full faith in Lord Shiva, and they got the mercy of Vishnu. So we have to have full faith in what Srila Prabhupada has given us, and then follow the instruction. Whatever he has said, it may look, farms, I don't know farming, but we have to know. For example, we have to learn, because that's a life skill, right? So, anyway, now we are used to, I don't even know how many plants are grown, honestly. Grown entirely in city. Zero connection. I only know that shop you can get these vegetables, that's all. No idea how they grow in the ground. This is the kind of civilization we are in now. Farming for them means go to the supermarket and get the vegetables. That is farming. So people don't know what is actually how things are produced. So anyway, so we have to take this seriously. So any questions and comments on this topic? Some question here. Rajeshwari Mataji is asking, Prabhuji, is this Devi Tham in the material world itself? It is the material world. The material world is called Devi Tham. So, okay. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Hridaya Gaur Premanand.